Thank you for joining us today at our virtual reality Naloxone training webinar. We're thrilled to partner with Katka and Walmart to present this unique experience. Katka launched this simulation in February of 2020 at their National Leadership Forum. Since then, they held more than 25 virtual screening events and engaged thousands of participants. We look forward to seeing this initiative reach countless more communities. Today, we will hear more from a wonderful group of speakers here in Washington who are working every day to save lives. Then, we will view a virtual reality simulation developed by Walmart that demonstrates a few different scenarios and how to recognize when an overdose is happening and how to administer Naloxone. Our goal is to learn how to use this technology to help community leaders like you save lives and create a norm that every life is worth saving. My name is Lily Castro, and together with Johnny Fernandez, we serve as the coordinators of the Latinx Dream Coalition of South King County. I proudly identify as Latina, born and raised in Veracruz, Mexico. I immigrated to the United States in my late teens, where I faced challenges such as language barriers, navigation to the school system, and issues related to housing and food security. These experiences have shaped my personal mission to support migrant families who, like myself, find themselves in similar circumstances. My passion aligns with the mission of the Latinx Dream Coalition to provide culturally appropriate education tools and services that reduce harm, empower Latinx youth and families, and promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being. We aim to encourage drug-free youth while advancing equity and justice in our communities. You might wonder how we achieve these goals. For example, our coalition meets twice a month, where all members plan and implement innovative interactive learning projects. One of them is, for example, our Taller de Teatro y Prevención de Adicciones, where youth development skills and abilities through art and creativity, straining their control and confidence. Over 5 weeks, participants build a supportive network with a safe, welcoming, and fun environment for themselves and their families. This project combines passion for theater with dynamic prevention techniques, empowering our youth to make healthy, informed decisions. It is also important to recognize that some of our members have different needs. To bridge this gap, we provide snacks, childcare, and bus tickets for those who attend our gatherings, ensuring everyone has the opportunity to participate fully. We also had Caminatas y Prevención, Biking in Prevención, Mundo de Mujeres, and more projects to come. Don't miss out in this beautiful journey of prevention. If you want to be part of our Latinx Dream Coalition, please find us at www.latinxdreamcoalition.org. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Katka's Chief Operating Officer, Valentino Murphy. As Chief Operating Officer, he works directly with the CEO to establish, prioritize, and carry out the strategic objectives of the organization. In addition, he works with team members across the organization to streamline process, bridge interdepartmental gaps, and ensure the staff and their teams are working towards the strategic objectives. We are thrilled to have him with us here today. Valentino.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. First, I want to extend my gratitude to Walmart for their commitment to life-saving through this innovative training. I'd also like to thank our good friends at Latinx Dream Coalition and Neighborhood House. It's an honor to be here alongside such remarkable leaders from the great state of Washington. So let's get with it. CACA has about 30 countries and leads more than 7,000 coalitions across the United States. We work with community residents and leaders to develop coalitions and reduce substance misuse by adapting CATCA's model for community change. We understand that prevention is the most cost-effective way to reduce substance use and misuse. The emphasis on prevention is much more crucial than before. The CDC reported that there were over 107,000 fatal drug overdoses in the United States in 2023. So let's put this in perspective. That will fill the home game at the Seahawks Lumen Field 1.5 times. This is why leaders and community stakeholders like yourselves are crucial. You are really the true leaders in driving positive change. We're not alone in this fight. Our partners at the Drug Enforcement Administration continue their One Pill Can Kill campaign, which has raised awareness about fentanyl-laced pills that are killing so many fellow Americans. In 2023, the DEA seized more than 80 million fentanyl-laced faked pills and nearly 12,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. The 2023 seizures are equivalent to more than 381 million lethal doses of fentanyl, more than enough to kill every American. Their message could not be clearer. The only safe medications are the ones prescribed by a trusted medical profession and dispensed by a licensed pharmacist. As the DEA administrator Ann Milgram shared at CACA's 2023 Leadership Forum, this is not a war on drugs, but a fight to save lives. We also need to be vigilant of trends popping up in our communities. Our partners at the Office of National Drug Control Policy have identified xylazine, or tranq, as a key emerging threat and has been identified in all 50 states. It interacts with opioids in a devastating way that leads to overdoses. In a report to the White House, the Office of National Drug Control Policy stated that community-based programs like this one will be among the first to interface with individuals vulnerable to fentanyl contaminated with xylazine. In this current landscape, we need every available tool to save lives and help our communities recover from this drug crisis. This gathering today and Walmart's innovative training is a huge step forward. Keep up the good work. Trust me, you are making a difference. I hope to see you soon in person. Now back to you, Lily.
Thank you for joining us today, Valentino, and for all your leadership across CATCA in this work. Turning to our wonderful group of speakers from Washington, we're honored to hear from Washington Senator Claire Wilson. Claire Wilson has represented the people of the 30th District since 2018. She is in her 4th year as chair of the Senate Human Services Committee and is proud to serve as vice chair of the Senate Early Learning and K-12 Education Committee. She is also a member of the Transportation Rules and holds the role of Assistant Majority Whip. In her time in office, Senator Wilson has been a strong proponent of reform in the child welfare, juvenile justice, and correction systems. She is motivated to disrupt institutions that keep people where they are instead of providing them the tools and resources they need for successful reentry. She is also the force behind major education legislation, including having sponsored Senate Bill 5395, which requires all Washington public schools to provide comprehensive sexual health education. She has also championed the landmark Fair Starts for Kids Act, which invested $1.1 billion to make childcare and early learning more accessible and affordable for Washington families. Senator Wilson, we're looking forward to hear from you.
Well, hello, my name is Senator Claire Wilson, and I proudly represent the 30th Legislative District, which is in South King County in the state of Washington. And I say it's outside the shadow of Seattle. So here today to talk a little bit about kind of a sad subject, I do believe, and that's kind of what's happening around fentanyl and the opioid crisis across our state and really across the nation. And was asked to talk a little bit about what's happening in Washington state and why this issue is important to me and kind of the work I've done around this in the recent legislative session. So what I will say, first of all, is that in 2021, the state of Washington passed a bill that was called Keeping Families Together. And the whole focus of the bill was to make sure that when parents were challenged and were struggling and their children were impacted, that the first place we looked for help and support was within kinship care and guardianship care. And that means within families. And instead of removing children from homes and putting them in foster care first, that the first thing we needed to do was look at family and look at extended family, because unifying families and keeping families together is always the best and the most important thing in most cases for children. And then we had something called the opioid crisis and fentanyl crisis. And I was hearing that people were conflating those two things, that they were saying because we were keeping families together and because we were unifying families, that it was causing this crisis. And I don't believe that is true. I believe that fentanyl crisis and the synthetic opioid crisis right now is a public health crisis that's impacting far more people than we've ever seen before, and in a much more deadly way than with other drugs that we've seen before. And the other thing that was the most disturbing for me was that the individuals that were being impacted in the highest numbers were infants and toddlers, small children under the age of 5 that were really in situations where they could not protect themselves. Some of that because families and parents were addicted themselves and were unable to care for kids, but others because children got into what would have been considered prescription kinds of drugs, because fentanyl is a prescribed medication. And again, we were finding that very, very small amounts were causing the death of children. And so I did a bill called Senate Bill 6109, and it was the goal was to address this fentanyl crisis and look at it and look at the supports and services that were also needed for children and families. So the first thing that the legislation does is it really brings the needed clarity to the state's child safety policy regarding high potency synthetic opioids for the courts, for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, for the Attorney Generals, and for offices, and for so many others, because there are so many parties that have discretion along the way when a child is involved in the child welfare system. And then the second thing that was really important to me was that we increase not only the availability of services and treatment, but also the amount and the resources available for families that have been affected by this high potency synthetic opioid crisis. And so that's kind of where 6109 came from. And what it does is it really defines and provides guidance for courts and for caseworkers by adding high synthetic opioids to a list of what can be established for imminent physical harm, as we look at something to consider when we're considering removing a child. But also, again, like I said, the bill increases support services to families to receive treatment. And there are like 11 different, I say, buckets of support that are now included in the law to help families. So expanding training, it increases information to families, to poison control, to caregivers, to the courts, to families, to child protective services, to child welfare workers. And it's distributing new material because every day we learn more and more about this fentanyl and other high potency synthetic opioids. It also establishes a pilot program, more than one on each side of the state, for childcare slots for families who are in substance use disorder or methadone treatment in order to help families and family systems. It expands treatment and services to children and families with prenatal substance use disorder, because we're also looking at what happens in families when individuals become pregnant and how it is that we support an individual on the road to recovery. It includes funding to promote promotoras in at least 2 communities. And again, to help within communities this issue, because we know there are vulnerable populations within our general population. I also want to say that we passed some bills to make sure that naloxone was available. And initially, we had a bill that said naloxone needed to be available in schools that were larger than 2,000 students, and soon realized that was not going to be enough. And so changed that piece of legislation. So we now have naloxone available in all of our schools, as well now as legislation that has it available in our higher ed programs. We been hearing from advocates that I think the next thing we need to think about is in our early childhood and our childcare programs. Where is it anywhere that we come in contact with children and families that there's the potential and the possibility is where we need to have naloxone available. Everything we're trying to do, I think, is making sure that families have the resources and supports that they need. We know recovery is a long road when we're on an addiction pathway. We also know that we need to have medically assisted treatment, and we need to have all kinds of harm reduction resources available for kids and families, because this is such an important issue, but also a very difficult issue for families to talk about. I hope that gives you a little bit more information on the fentanyl crisis and the Child and Family Services and Supports Bill, Senate Bill 6109 we did, as well as the 11 buckets of resources that will be available to families, to children, and to professionals across the state. And know that we have more work to do to get a handle on this crisis. And I want to thank you for listening, and please reach out if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Senator Wilson, for your representation in the legislature and across so many key issues. You are an amazing advocate for practical services and programs in the community, and we appreciate your work so much. Our next speaker, Janice Deguchi, is the Executive Director of Neighborhood House, one of the oldest human services agencies in the Seattle region, and which serves thousands of people annually in King County through their major program areas, including through programs such as the Latinx Dream Coalition. At Neighborhood House, Janice has led an inclusive process to update the organization strategic plan. Strand is committed to become an anti-racist organization and secure $4.7 million in addition funding annually to expand early learning facilities at 5 locations. Janice is a third-generation Japanese American whose parents were incarcerated during World War II. She grew up in South Seattle, graduated from Rainier Beach High School, UW, and Seattle University. For over 25 years, she has helped people gain access to vocational training, early learning, senior care, and youth mentorship. Janice, committed to social justice, extends beyond her work. She has been a tireless advocate for early learning and was recognized in ParentMap for her advocacy in 2013. She led a public art project that commissioned a mural commemorating the contribution and incarceration of Japanese American farmers at the Pike Place Market. Janice volunteered to prepare income tax returns through United Way free tax help program for 3 filing seasons, and currently serves on the boards of 501 Commons, Washington State Community Action Partnership, and is co-chair of the Seattle Human Services Coalition Wage Equity Leadership Committee. Janice, we're looking forward to hear from you.
Hello, my name is Janice Taguchi, and I'm Executive Director of Neighborhood House. Neighborhood House was founded in 1906 by the National Council of Jewish Women to serve immigrants newly arrived to Seattle. Today, we serve over 13,600 people living in 7,000 households from birth to end of life. We are embedded in public housing communities, public school buildings, community colleges, and church basements throughout Seattle and King County. Our staff speak 40 different languages, and there's 350 of them. Our mission is to open doors for people experiencing language, cultural, and systemic barriers to housing, health, education, and economic opportunity. Neighborhood House has been home to the Latinx Dream Coalition since its inception 2 years ago, which fits right in with our prevention efforts. The Southeast Seattle Prevention, Education, and Action for Community Empowerment, or PEACE Coalition, is also home at Neighborhood House and works to prevent substance abuse among diverse youth and families in Southeast Seattle. Prevention starts early at Neighborhood House from prenatal to age 3. Our early Head Start home visitors visit families weekly to provide health and wellness information, learning activities, and tips and tools to strengthen the parent-child bond. We also offer toddler and preschool center-based early learning, where children learn how to get along with each other and prepare for kindergarten. Neighborhood House organizes Guiding Good Choices workshops in English, Spanish, Somali, Vietnamese, Oromo, and many parents credit these peer-led parent education workshops for improving their relationships with their teenagers. We also offer prevention workshops to 200 youth per year. Our youth development programs at High Point and Furwood Circle and Burndale in Auburn provide safe spaces for children and youth to gather after school and during the summer to work on homework, explore careers, take field trips, and develop leadership skills. Neighborhood House's youth advocates work hard to develop strong relationships with youth who are not engaged in school. Together with families, they work together to develop a plan and support them to retrieve credits, get their GED, enter college, or work. Our Family Resource Center at High Point is a safe space for families to go for activities, ESL classes, movie nights, and more. Neighborhood House is also building a prevention movement. We have created the Most Steer Clear media campaign to prevent young adults from driving impaired. These youth developed messages and commercials can be found in shopping malls, billboards, and in movie theaters. Hello Future is our newest youth-led campaign, and our videos can be found on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Join our movement at hellomyfuture.org. Neighborhood House has resources for everyone of all ages in multiple languages. If you know a friend, family member, or community member in need of help, call our helpline at 206-923-6480. Click our website at nhwa.org or send us an email at resources@nhwa.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janice. Your leadership in Neighborhood House is so valuable to all of us at the Latinx Dream Coalition. And your support for community members is an example we all can learn from. We now turn to our great supporter of local prevention coalitions and an amazing provider, Marcos Saudi. Marcos is a dedicated contractor, consultant, and independent provider in the behavioral health field, specializing in substance use prevention, intervention, treatment, and post-treatment services in the greater Seattle-Tacoma area. With a deep commitment to social justice, equity, and human rights, he passionately advocates for the BIPOC, immigrant, and marginalized communities. As such, he serves as a voice for individuals facing addiction, behavioral issues, and mental health challenges. Marcos currently serves as a coalition coordinator in Pierce County, where he collaborates with other community prevention and wellness initiatives coalitions. In this role, he emphasizes the vital importance of prevention within the continuum of care, actively engaging youth, serving agencies and organizations to enhance protective factors in the community and safeguard youth. Marcos graduated from Northwest Indian College in 2008 with a focus in chemical dependency studies. Drawing from his own experience as a troubled youth, he has been in recovery for over 25 years and considers it an honor to share his journey of experience, strength, and hope with others. He is passionate about helping individuals break generational cycles of addiction, violence, abuse, and trauma, empowering them to overcome the challenges they face. Marcos looks forward to continue collaboration with providers and communities, working towards a healthier and more equitable future for all. Take it away, Marcos.
My name is Marcos Saudi. I am a substance use disorder professional, an independent provider, doing business as Calma Counseling Consulting Service here out of King County in the greater Seattle area. And I'm really fortunate and honored, humble to have been invited to participate in this webinar. Appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to Latinx Dream Coalition and CATCA. A little disclosure, I'm an individual in long-term recovery, so I do have my own personal journey around exposure to opioids, and I am really a blessed individual to have over 25 years of clean time and recovery. And but again, I can help to share a little bit of what it's like to have the opportunity to see so much passion and understanding of what it's like to get together and addressing a matter when it's seen as a public health issue rather than stigmatize it, and information dissemination and having the ability to train and educate families, parents, administrators, educators, professionals, and even our youth when it comes down to the use of naloxone and the risk of accidental exposure, accidental use. You know, it's so important, and it will save a life. At some point, some of our families will be really grateful that they get the opportunity to be informed, to be trained, to have the particular resource at their disposal, because that's where it's at. Dealing with the substance use disorder, the behavioral health matter, the mental health illness, you name it. It doesn't matter the social economic status. It doesn't matter the racial ethnicity, all right, the cultural background, the language, the legal status. All that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, all right? What matters the most is what our level of understanding and ability to, deal with a particular dilemma is. And that's where our information, resource will make the difference, all right? The risk is there. And I want to emphasize the greater risk to our youth and the younger population is the most overdoses are related to accident use. They're not knowing what they actually get in themselves and what type of substance they get in their system. Most don't know. A lot of times it's not so much the ignorance of or lack of information is so bad and it gets this bad rap. It's just what it is. We don't have information. We're not educated, and we hear from others that oh, this thing is bad. It is just so bad. What do you mean we're going to have these things just there for our kids or our families to have access to? We are not heroin addicts. We're not IV users. We're not injecting ourselves with anything. And once again, the stigma and the idea that is just an issue and it's something just directly impacting those homeless individuals and those people that we get to see on the street on the street and so forth and so on. It's not such. It's not such. And we do not want to wait until we lose a loved one to realize, oh, yeah, I get to see the point now. So it's always better to be proactive and just uh, be ready, right? Do please go ahead, feel free and do your own research and understand that medically there are no side effects to this particular substance or resource that we are here, should I say, promoting or speaking of, or ask. Yeah, it is asked for it to be used and for it to be made available for folks to learn how to use. So yeah, do your own research. And again, this is not to say that by having it and making it available for your family, for your students, for your friends, you implying that they are active users, doesn't necessarily mean that. What it does is, is sending a message that you proactively taking action, that you becoming aware that this particular crisis is spreading quickly and is getting into communities. This particular issue of substance use and how impacts our community get to impact our communities and families and our youth is no boundaries, no discrimination. So with that say, I do hope this is something that you will consider taking action and join us and all right. It's just making an effort to be part of the solution and nothing other than just informing yourself and learning what can I do, where can I find out how to step in and get the access and have the resort at my disposal and spread the word and share with others what I have learned. And again, if that means that I need to do some research myself and look at stats and data, so be it. Information is made available to you. And if you don't know where to go, where to turn, we're here and we will be glad to share information and lead you to where to find it. I do appreciate taking the time. And again, my information will be shared. And if you have any questions, I do hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. We appreciate your contribution to all prevention and wellness coalitions. And know that in your career, you have helped so many people to find a healthier path. Next up, we have Linda Thompson, the Executive Director of the Greater Spokane Substance Abuse Council. Linda Thompson began her life work in substance misuse and violence prevention because of the August 1986 death of her 3-year-old son at the wheels of several time repeated impaired driver. A former banker, she turned personal tragedy into public policy activism. By advocating for prevention, treatment, and recovery support at the local, state, and national level. She helped to start the Spokane County DUI Victims Panel in 1992, and soon after became the executive director of the Greater Spokane Substance Abuse Council. In 2000, Linda was a founding member of the Washington Association for Substance Abuse and Violence Prevention. In 2017, Linda was elected to and served 4 years on the Spokane Valley City Council, where she also represented Eastern Washington cities over 5,000 on the board of directors of the Association of Washington Cities and was the member of the National League of Cities Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee. Her commitment to prevention is reflected in her belief that community safety is up to each of us. Linda is a certified prevention professional with a certificate in public relations from Eastern Washington University and a Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership from Gonzaga University. Here, now is Linda.
Hello, I'm Linda Thompson, and I'm with the Washington Association for Substance Misuse and Violence Prevention, an advocacy group working in Washington state with coalitions across our state for prevention in partnership with treatment and criminal justice systems. My work in prevention started 38 years ago, actually last week, when my 3-year-old son was killed by a 17-time repeat impaired driver. Trevor was sitting on a pony cart next to his grandfather going to be in a parade in La Center, Washington. My 6-year-old daughter was behind them on her horse, and a friend was behind them on a 3-wheeled trike. The man hit our family and their friend, killing Trevor, injuring Grandpa, hurting Katie, and we lost April, their friend as well. Once the case was resolved, and the man was convicted of 2 counts of vehicular homicide and 1 of vehicular assault, and he was sentenced to 27 months and going to serve 13 months. I really found my life work. It didn't matter to me one bit how he was going to serve time or where he was going to be. My question was, did he ever get treatment? And more importantly, how could we have prevented this? So I was a banker at the time and decided I needed to dedicate my life work to prevention. And it has been an extremely rewarding and giving back career. I have been a member of CADCA for years through our coalition here at the Greater Spokane Substance Abuse Council, and found that partnership is the key to helping prevention, treatment, and law and justice work come together to save lives. I'm very grateful for coalitions across our state that I work with under WASAP, like Johnny Fernandez Latinx Dream Coalition, who have done incredible work in their community, working with citizens, working with schools, working with youth, and really taking on, bridging that step into supporting saving lives through the use of Naloxone. Johnny and her coalition have been very active in our state, sharing their methods for reaching out to community, being able to raise awareness about the overdose epidemic we are seeing across our state and across our nation, and the training and the knowledge that is shared, and the importance of bringing prevention, treatment, and law and justice together is really at the core of our commission, of our coalition's missions and our goals together. I'm very glad to be here on this training today, and so glad that CADCA, the premier prevention advocacy group for us and building place for us to come together as coalitions, is to really make sure we understand that each of us has a role in community safety. And truly, prevention is community safety when it comes to overdoses. We are just seeing this epidemic cause such pain, heartache, and loss in our communities that we have got to use every tool in our toolbox to come together to make that difference. So this training about how to use the naloxone, how to administer, how to find resources, how to share make it a community norm that we all step up and help. This just can't be law enforcement. This just can't be health districts. This just can't be treatment providers that solve this problem. It's going to take all of us. And as I look to what I have been able to work on over the years in our coalition and with the statewide advocacy, we have done some great policy work that has brought resources to treatment, brought Narcan or naloxone resources to communities. Our coalitions across the state have done incredible work with lock boxes and lock bags, changing the norm about not being so free with having, prescription drugs. We worked 8 years on some legislation for the take back laws in Washington state, which are very successful to getting rid of those drugs, but we have got to be proactive. So be open to the learning, be open to being someone who will carry the naloxone, that you can help somebody, and listen to the intimate details about how to really be helpful, like staying there, calling 911 first thing, using the resources that we know and sharing those with those in your community. As we look at how we can train other people and start reducing the anxiety some folks have, saying, ooh, I would never want to help a homeless person down on the street, but I might help a child who is in trouble on a playground. We've got to embrace that the death by an overdose knows no boundaries. It can happen to anyone. At our prevention center here in Spokane, we have a memorial wall, and unfortunately is growing with those who have suffered an accidental overdose, those who have been hit by impaired drivers and lost their lives, those who have been in violent criminal activity resulting in their death. There is no judgment about who is going to need the naloxone, no judgment around who has struggled with their addiction. And it takes all of us to change the way we are, to be compassionate for one another. And this training, so easily accessible, so easy to go back and review it, so easy to share with those in the coalition, is exactly what Johnny and her coalition and our coalition and coalitions across Washington state and the nation, that we are the ones that are going to step up, train other people, reduce that stigma of treatment and recovery, and to be supportive of those who have been victims, the surviving family. I can tell you that I never thought I would lose one of my children to an impaired driving crash. Never. I was always careful. I was always the goody two-shoes. I was a Girl Scout forever. I did everything I could to protect my children, and one of them was taken by someone's actions. Let's have our actions be that of preventing overdoses, doing everything we can to prevent substance misuse, to encourage treatment, to reduce the stigma of treatment, and to be a resource for our local governments, our law enforcement, our community, our partners in mental health, our partners in domestic violence. This is our collective problem. This is not someone else's problem. This is our community. This is our coalitions. This is our personal life work, that we can make a difference. What an opportunity. We're so glad you're here today. Get involved with your local coalition. If this is the first time you're hearing about this effort, call someone up, go to the meeting. Every voice needs to be at the table. Everyone has a place to share their ideas, and mostly a chance to save lives and be part of a healthy, strong, well community. Appreciate being here today. Appreciate it being here on behalf of our state, WASAP, my coalition, Johnny's coalition. It's partners like Johnny and Wanda and Sue across the state that we come together, and we are not going to be complacent. Now is the time to take action. Community safety and the well-being of our communities is up to each of us, for all of us. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I hope that you will take what you've learned and share it with others. And I hope someday we connect, because we are the ones that are going to make the difference.
Thank you, Linda. Your career in prevention is an inspiration to all of us, and your contributions have been so vital at this field has grown throughout Washington. Our next speaker today has also turned that must of unspeakable loss into a change that reaches out to all. Millie Gigamian. Born and raised in Southern California, Millie began her career in journalism after attending California State University, Northridge. Then she moved to Seattle in 2006, with her family and 2 children, Giancarlo and Dante, and decided to advance her educational skills. She went on to attend Seattle Central Community College, earning an AA in science and opticianry and obtaining her optician license from the state of Washington in 2013. Now, Millie is a licensed dispensing optician for an eye care clinic and volunteers her expertise in the opticianry services department at the King County Department of Health Free Clinic. In 2020, her 20-year-old son, Giancarlo Giuseppe, became a victim of a fentanyl overdose. Furious, grief-stricken, and motivated, Millie decided it was time to stop the madness and founded the Fentanyl United Crisis Coalition in 2022. With over 20 years of experience in marketing, PR, and event coordination, Millie created FUCC to help prevent addiction and overdose from synthetic fentanyl, so other families don't have to experience the loss and suffering that her and her family are going through. Millie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to be here to speak to your community. And my name is Millie Malidi Jagamian. I am the founder of Fentanyl United Crisis Coalition. I lost my 20-year-old son in 2020 to a fentanyl overdose. And the result of that has been this organization, which is aimed at helping youth become more educated and empowered and giving them access to tools and harm reduction education to help them be more aware of what is in the street drugs, and also to help the community at large be better participants in harm reduction, especially as related to youth. Fentanyl was something that I'd never heard of, and I learned the hard way what fentanyl was after my 20-year-old son had overdosed from a blue pill that was disguised as Percocet, and he overdosed while we were all at home. Went to the hospital. That was when we learned what fentanyl was, and our whole world from that day forward was completely changed. He had to go into treatment. Of course, we couldn't let him come home, but we didn't know what kind of treatment. No one at the hospital helped us with that. We were basically thrown out onto our own to find ways to help our son. And this was just so brutal, having not had any experience with this substance. And, I think what I've learned from this experience is that a lot of the times kids who are struggling with mental health issues like depression and anxiety will often get involved in drugs like Percocet, Xanax, street drugs that they think might help them feel better, and then quickly become addicted to it and often will overdose. We know that the numbers are outrageous. Over 100,000 people died of an overdose last year, and about 75% of that was from opioids. And we also know that the largest group overdosing from this are ages 18 to 48. And so that is primarily who I target in providing information that we just didn't have. And that ended up being deadly. And so we want to be able to reach youth that are already using, whether it be they're already deep in and addicted to street drugs like that have fentanyl in it, or if they're just kids that are at a frat party or out in the world partying and have no idea that cocaine and, pills and all of those drugs are most likely going to be laced with fentanyl. So by giving them this information in a way that isn't judgmental, and isn't trying to scare them, even though this is a very topic, we want to educate them and have them be prepared to, if their friend overdoses at a party, they should have Narcan, they should know how to use Narcan. Or if they know someone who's struggling with substance use disorder and addicted to things like fentanyl, then they can help guide them to resources, whether it's through our website or other organizations. And also we provide information on things like test strips so people can test their drugs. a lot of people might ask me, why aren't you trying to teach abstinence? Why aren't you, doing that sort of thing? Well, I'm 100% for prevention, and I think that we need to provide prevention in schools at a very early age. Um, and that includes talking openly about mental health and making sure kids feel safe. But a lot of times as parents, we do all those things. We do everything that we're supposed to do. And whether it be because of mental illness, depression, anxiety, or just because kids are out there experimenting and partying, we need to be prepared for that to happen, and so harm reduction, which is something we support, obviously, and that's our whole message, is a safety net. It's a safety net for those times when it's just past the point of stopping our kids from getting involved in drugs. And so rather than punish them or make them feel scared about talking to us, we need to understand ourselves what they're going through as parents, as adults, as caregivers. And we need to have these conversations with our kids, and we need to be able to provide them these tools to stay safe. And a lot of times, people will say, I don't need to take Narcan. I don't need any of these things because I don't use drugs. Well, it's really not for the person who's using per se, it's for the people around you. So if you have Narcan and you're witnessing an overdose, you can step in as a citizen. So I'm obviously a huge supporter of having Naloxone and Narcan, same thing, around you all the time. Stigma is such a huge problem, and it's something I talk about a lot. People tend to be very judgmental towards kids who are using drugs, even if they're just the recreational users for the first time. But especially, I think, when they become addicted, all of a sudden, they become these people that make bad decisions and, are bringing this upon themselves. Well, when you take the time to talk to kids and people struggling with this, you know that that's not the case. So I urge everybody to have a different perspective when talking to youth that are out there using, whether it's experimental or to numb their pain. Listen to what they have to say. Don't judge them. Have empathy. We need to bring these kids into a place where they feel safe and not shamed and not judged, so that we can get them to a place where they're going to listen to us about what they need to do to stay safe, to stay alive. And if they're already struggling with addiction, then to get the help that they need. And so I really want to bring attention to the fact that there's other options for treatment once somebody is addicted, and that includes medically assisted treatment. There's a lot of research and evidence-based success with drugs like Suboxone and buprenorphine and things like that. So if any of these things were given to us as options, I think we would have had a much better chance. And as a parent, I sure wish I had the knowledge that I have now to understand that this is not kids misbehaving. This is not kids just being bad kids. This is a real crisis that they face in their world that they live in, and it's deadly. And we have to do everything that we can as a community, as parents, as educators, to change the way we look at this problem as it pertains to youth, and understand their world and meet them where they're at and make them feel safe, because they need to be able to talk about this. They need to be able to feel like they can ask for help or get help without being judged, without being shamed, without getting in trouble. And so my message to everybody is, please get educated. Learn not only about the dangers of this drug and the accessibility of it, but also the signs of when kids are using. I have a one sheet on our website that talks about what to look for, because a lot of times when this becomes a problem in someone's life, it starts to look like mental health issues. And so when you have coexisting diagnoses like depression, anxiety, and substance use disorder, it kind of just gets very confusing. So you may not know that in addition to their anxiety and depression and those kinds of behaviors, that they're now also engaging in these dangerous substances, and it does change them, and it will probably kill them. So get educated, learn everything you can about the signs of somebody struggling with this drug, and have conversations so that kids are prepared to deal with this so that they have the knowledge, so that maybe if they're out there and they come across one of those very deadly blue pills that are like a huge source of the overdoses that we're seeing, because most of the time they're laced with fentanyl. And it only takes 2 milligrams in a pill, and that's like a couple of grains of salt. That's all it takes. And so they need to know, like, that these pills are dangerous, and they need to know in a way that we're not saying you're stupid for trying them. Like, just please know what's in them and don't try them if you can. And if you're going to do it anyways, here's some ways you can test the drugs, and take this Narcan with you and give it to your friends, because if something happens to you or to them, you can save their life. You will save their life if you have Narcan and you know how to use it. And then once somebody is in a place where they're alive, and they realize they have a problem, obviously, because they've overdosed, or for whatever reason, then we can start making them feel like comfortable enough and safe enough to say, hey, listen, like, this is a problem, and here's some ways that you can get treatment that won't be so painful, that won't be so hard, and that you can start to get your life back on track. So we all need to come together and make sure that parents and kids and caregivers have all this information, all these tools. There's a one sheet also on stigma and how to talk about this issue in a way that isn't judgmental or shaming. That's very important, because if kids feel shame, they're not gonna talk to anybody about it. And so, yeah, let's just all come together and know how to have access to this information, and let's spread the information. And let's look at this crisis for what it is, and that is a public health crisis. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Millie. Youth and parents across Washington are so fortunate to have you here to spread understanding and awareness. Your ability to reach youth where they are and on their terms is saving lives. And we appreciate you so much. Thank you again to each of us speakers today. They're doing so much to raise awareness and expand services in this challenging environment. And now we will view the overdose prevention simulation portion of this event. Walmart has invested in virtual reality equipment training facilities for their associates to build the skills in unique situations that are hard to replicate in a classroom setting, like a front of a store, shopping experiences, and emergency preparedness simulation. This technology led to the development of non-retail training such as the VR, which we will see next. Let's take a moment to view this training.
Dude, guess what I just swiped for my grandma?
What? Don't people get strung out on this stuff?
Yeah, that's the point.
These two industrious young gentlemen have stolen opioid medication for recreational use. Oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl, and heroin are a group of chemicals referred to as opioids. The first three may be prescribed by a medical professional to treat pain, but they can be addictive and deadly, especially if not taken as directed. Heroin has no legitimate medical purpose. Opioid overdose is the current leading cause of death for people under 55. True or false? More than half of Americans have been affected by opioids. Correct. Over 70,000 people died of opioid overdose in the United States in 2017, and millions more were impacted through overdose or misuse. That means that if you have not been directly affected by opioids, someone you know likely has. But not every overdose needs to end in death. Today we're going to teach you to spot the signs of an overdose and administer naloxone, a life-saving medication.
Hey. You okay, dude? You don't look so good.
Opioid overdoses will slow or stop your breathing. This reduces the amount of oxygen in your body, resulting in pale or clammy skin. The pupils will constrict until they are the size of a pin. The lack of oxygen can cause the fingers and sometimes lips to turn blue, gray, or purple, depending on the person's skin tone.
Your breathing is weird. It's too slow.
A very serious side effect of opioids is depressed breathing. During an overdose, their breathing will become shallow, erratic, or stop entirely.
Yo, Jay. Wake up, man. Wake up or I'm calling the cops. John. Hey, I'm not playing with you. Dude, are you breathing? Dude, you're not breathing. Jonathan.
Loss of consciousness is the final tell of an overdose. If you suspect someone is passing out because of an overdose, you should scream their name and try to wake them to see if they will respond. As with any emergency, the first thing you should do is call 911.
911, what's the emergency? Yeah, hello? I need help.
Naloxone is a life-saving medication that can reverse opioid overdose and restore breathing. There are several types of naloxone available, and all of them provide a life-saving medication in the event of an opioid overdose. In the example today, you'll see the nasal spray Narcan administered. If you happen to have the injectable form, make sure to hold the needle straight and inject it into a muscle, like the shoulder or the upper thigh. First, peel back the packaging to remove the device. The device has a plunger and a nozzle. Hold the device with your thumb on the plunger and 2 fingers on the nozzle. Be careful not to accidentally spray the naloxone before you are ready. The device only has 1 dose, so don't test it out. Put the device right up their nostril until your fingers are touching their nose. Press firmly on the plunger to release the dose of naloxone.
Come on, buddy. Wake up. Come on, man, wake up.
After you administer naloxone, place them in the recovery position and wait for help. The person who overdosed needs immediate medical care. You should stay with them until help arrives in case they lose consciousness again. Another dose may be necessary.
There you go. There you go. All right, that's it. Welcome back.
Great job. When people think of overdose, they usually think of recreational opioid use like we saw here. This is a stereotype, and unfortunately, there are many situations that lead to accidental overdose. let's take a look at other situations that can lead to accidental overdose.
Mom? 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 Mom, wake up. Mom? Not again. My mother is blacked out. I think she's had a heart attack. Send an ambulance.
Please stay calm. I'm going to check her vitals. What's her name?
Blanche.
Blanche, I'm here to help you, okay? Is that hers? I'm going to check her for an overdose. She's got a pulse, but her breathing is slow. Let's check her pupils. All right, stay with me. Uh-oh, they're constricted. With this medication, this may be an overdose. Let's administer naloxone. All right, Blanche, stick with me, okay? 1 second. All right, I'm just gonna go right up here. The patient took too much of her prescribed medication. She forgot that she took her medication before breakfast and took another dose after breakfast. In the event that this had been a heart attack, naloxone wouldn't have been able to treat the heart attack, but it would generally be fine to administer to her without serious complications. Talk to your healthcare provider or check the package insert for possible side effects and additional information. All right, Eugene, got your stuff. Oh, no. Eugene took an old opioid medication that he had previously been prescribed for pain. Usually this wouldn't cause an overdose, but he's taking a new benzodiazepine medication. When opioids and benzodiazepines mix, the results can be deadly. Always check with your doctor or pharmacist before taking any medication, just in case there will be a negative interaction with your other medications.
Sending an ambulance right away.
Opioid overdose can happen to anyone. You can overdose from opioids even when taking a prescription exactly as your doctor prescribed, which is exactly what happened to me. All right, hotshot. I hope you're paying attention. It's your time to shine. Select the things you should look for when you suspect an opioid overdose. Now, let's review how to administer naloxone. Correct. You have to remove the device from its packaging. It will not do you a lot of good otherwise. Correct. That's how you hold the device. That's correct. You did it. You saved my life. Thank you for knowing what to do in the event of an opioid overdose. Accidental overdose can happen to anyone taking opioids, whether recreationally or even as directed by a doctor. This information can save a life. Opioid misuse is a national epidemic, and accidental overdose can happen to anyone taking opioids. It takes an entire community to keep all our members safe from overdose. If you or someone you care about is taking opioids for any reason, consider getting Naloxone at your local pharmacy and keeping it on you at all times. No prescription is required, and it could save your life or the life of someone you care about.
Thank you, Walmart team, for developing this powerful tool. We're so excited to work with you to connect this resource with community members. We want to extend our thanks to all of our speakers and participants for attending this event. We truly appreciate your time and insight. Thank you so much to all of you for supporting Neighborhood House and the Latinx Dream Coalition. It's only through your support that we can offer all these services and touch the numbers of lives that we do in the community. And finally, I'd like to thank our friends at CATCA, Mia Wallace and the development and membership team at CATCA. Please reach out to them to learn how you can be more involved in this work and for additional training. This now concludes our webinar. I wish you a great rest of the week.